Right. Right. The next day on safari. Um, so it was usually right around this time. I think it was right around this time that I started thinking, how could game drives be any more exciting? Because we were going out on game drives pretty much twice a day. Um, I think we did a total of 25 different experiences on safari in different ways. And I kept thinking, this doesn't get old. I wonder if it will get old. And it never did. Okay. So we're still at Somalisa camp. Um, and you see there, kind of what our travels were in and out of the concession and everything. So let's see what today had in store for us for animal sightings. So this was the morning sunrise coming up over the watering hole there. We had an encounter with a little family of giraffes. There were quite a few. There may be about 8 to 10 of them, I think. Um, and it was actually, I hadn't really thought about giraffes actually being on safari, but when we did run across them, it wasn't every day by any stretch of the imagination. It was maybe once per camp or something. But they are actually kind of impressive, seeing them in the wild. Um, and just like a lot of animals, I think you can see that bird on the neck of the one in the front, in the foreground there. A lot of animals have these symbiotic relationships with birds because they pick off little insects and stuff off of them and things like that. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting that that showed up on a photograph. And then the rest of these, of course, if you want to stop the video at any point in time, if you want to admire one of the photos, you can certainly do that. I've put several in here so that there are different views of these animals. Plus, I mean, it was kind of hard for me to kind of just do a subset of what my favorite photos were. Uh, Clearly, some of them, don't come through very well. So I deleted a lot that maybe were a little fuzzy or, some part of the animal got cut off or something like that that just didn't make it a great photo. But um, uh, I probably took hundreds of photos. Um, and here's a video of this little family grouping of the giraffes. You see that termite hill around that tree? Yeah. And the guide is talking about the fact they love these acacia trees. They love hanging out there and eating leaves off of those. I love it when the animals would like turn full face. And a lot of times they did, it was very cool. They're very interested in kind of what this animal was. That was the vehicle, the safari vehicle. A lot of these animals were used to the vehicles. They're not terribly disturbed by them. Some are a little bit more skittish around the vehicle than others. Even though I didn't think much about the giraffe, they're pretty impressive. Um, they're very cool. I like them a lot. So you can see I got a lot of good photographs of them in their natural habitat. Although that was a good one there with that one kind of hiding behind. And you can see how they kind of blend in, their coats and everything kind of blend into the background and everything. It really takes your eyeballs a little bit of getting used to being able to see them and to notice them. A lot of times the guide would notice them a lot earlier than we would. They've been out there for years doing this sort of thing, and we got better at it as we did more and more of these. But You could see how easily they can blend in. And you'll see some later. It's like, yeah, that would be kind of hard to see unless you got used to it over time. And especially, with it being the dry season when we were there, that brown tall grass is a great way for them to blend in. They also kind of blend in with the trees, the way their coats are colored and everything. Okay, and so another little landscape picture we had our early morning kind of breakfast break for coffee and tea here. Uh, Beautiful little patch of ground. Now, at this juncture, the our guide took us on a short walking safari from the vehicle. Um, Typically, I didn't do walking safaris. We had been offered to do one, but uh, we have injuries to our knees and things like that. So a really rough terrain is not going to be great for us to try and do that kind of walk. But we did a walking safari here, and this animal I'm seeing from the ground. Later on, I will show you, we got the opportunity to feed some mostly wild elephants, which I'll talk about later. But um, this is, I did do a close up on this one. He's probably a good um, 10 meters away, maybe less. I don't know. It's hard for me to judge meters and or feet. But just seeing them on the ground is a lot different than being in the vehicle. To some degree, I felt a little bit more protected in the vehicle, although I know that these animals are big enough that they could turn it over or they could do damage to it, without even thinking about it. So we're out walking around these animals. And so here's my little video of this one. Um, so we weren't out there long. We weren't walking for long, maybe 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. Um, but they were definitely knew we were there and didn't particularly care for it, I don't think. Um, at some point, um, now the safari guides, not everyone had rifles with them. This particular safari guide did have a rifle with him. Their intent is not to use it unless they absolutely have to. Um, and I thought it was kind of interesting that each camp kind of had their own rules about how guides handled their guns, if they had them with them, etc., that type of thing. And again, it's just for if there is a situation where someone could get hurt or killed, that they would use that. In fact, you'll find out later on, they don't interfere with these animals in any way. They do not, I mean, they are observed. The vehicles are in their space and everything, and that's as much as they try to get involved at all with kind of their daily life and everything. So, um, but we were pretty close to these elephants, and they were very aware that we were there. They were watching us very closely. At some point, um, one of these, so you're used to the trumpeting of an elephant. They make some other sounds like on this particular walk that we did, we heard one of these animals do a really low guttural sound um, that according to our guide, it was our warning. It was our warning to go away. And so at that point, our guide said, we need to go. And so off we went. But aren't they beautiful? They're just amazing animals. Another kind of landscape photo. Beautiful land. Okay, so now we're back in the vehicle itself. And this guy was walking across the road in front of us. Now, every once in a while, we would see animals that had injuries. You know, we saw an elephant that had a looked like a really stiff leg. I think maybe had a broken bone or something, and it didn't heal really well. So it was kind of walking with a stiff leg. It was kind of interesting to see. Here's your water buck. You know, and again, it has that unfortunate marking on the back end that looks like a toilet seat. Uh, they're little skittish people. Um, I happened to be on the deck right around lunchtime, and saw this lady out there, and so it was kind of cool to see her, and she didn't run away from me. Um, Elephant back in camp. He came down to the watering hole to drink. And that's where you can kind of see the water is bubbling up there. That's where they have plumbing installed in the watering hole. Yeah, you can see the bubbling. uh, this one liked to drink right over uh, that hose, I guess, or whatever it was that was filling water in. Now, here's your parade of elephants. So I had looked over when we came back to camp and I thought, oh, I don't remember seeing boulders up there. Well, it wasn't boulders, it was a whole bunch of elephants. And the one there in front started walking down towards the watering hole, and they all started following that one. So I have quite a few videos here to show you of them parading down and drinking from the watering hole. Um, Now, your camps, like this camp, is not huge. They're not huge camps. You're not going to have hundreds of people at a camp. This particular camp had, I think, 6 tents, you know, so at most you might have 12 to 15 or 18 people at the camp. Um, and so some of them knew these elephants were coming down. So we all kind of gathered up on the main tent deck to watch them and observe them for a while. It's really cool seeing them all. I think there was at least close to 20 of them that came down to the watering hole this day. Now, a lot of times we saw one or two elephants um, at the watering hole, but this was just a massive number of them coming down to the watering hole. It was cool to see so many all at once. And you see them all just kind of walking in, drinking quite a bit. Later on, they start spraying themselves with water. Kind of cool. And watching the little ones, you know, because elephants have to learn how to use that trunk. These, it looked like, have mastered learning how to use the trunk. You can see how close they are, right? And there's a whole bunch of them. You know, at least here, there's maybe over 10, right? They're very cool. And a couple of them are up there close to the little drinking pool that was installed for them. How could you not be fascinated by it, right? It was just mesmerizing. You know, I sat there taking video after video after video, picture, 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 you know, just wanting to really capture this moment that I was seeing. Yeah, so now you see that they're spraying themselves with the water. Pay close attention to those on the right. You'll see them start to spray themselves more. Yep, see, spraying, and that one's kicking at the sides, you know, making mud or whatever he's trying to do, he or she. And that one has found the plumbing. They seem to like that. And then later on, we were out on our evening game drive. This was my one picture of our vehicle, all the vehicles we had, because we did all African bush camps. They're all the same vehicles, but this was I got a good picture of it, and you can kind of see that the seating on it is kind of graduated, kind of like a concert hall or something, right? You know, you don't have a bad viewing area at all on these vehicles. They're kind of cool. And then this was the only time we saw a hyena. We kept hunting for them at different times. This was at night on one of the game drives. Our guide had knew that this hyena was around, and we tried to look for it. I got a couple of okay photos, but nothing as good as some of the other stuff that I've gotten. But it does show that we at least sighted it. And from everything we could tell, it was a pregnant hyena. She was about ready to give birth. And this was the evening sky, and it was just gorgeous. You're kind of there during a full moon period of time, and seeing the moon through these skies were pretty cool. So again, you know, if this does inspire you to go to Africa, find yourself a good um, company that can help coordinate it. We used Africa Dynamics, and they are at africadynamics.com. They booked us into all African bush camps, but there are lots of good tour operators that I now am aware of in Africa that do really well. They do great stuff. And so I highly hope you do someday go on an African safari, because it is just remarkable. And yes, the animals are what makes it cool, uh, clearly. Um, but also the people, you know, I didn't do profiles of the people, but every camp, they welcome you with song and drinks and cloths to wipe your face and refresh yourself. They sing to you often. A lot of times at night during dinner, they would sing, or you know, whatever, and it's full throated. Everybody participates, right? It's so unlike what I'm used to. The welcoming atmosphere of the people and the camps were just remarkable. All right. Thanks so much. And I'll see you on another video.